Do you get anxiety about having cancer, going through treatments, or your survivorship? It's so normal. I hope that you know that. I really do. It is something that just comes along with the diagnosis. I thought it was interesting, though. When I was diagnosed, my doctor gave me a prescription for anti-anxiety medicine, antidepressant medicine, sleeping pills, and I think medical marijuana. I didn't even express that I was feeling anxious, but those just got handed to me when I was diagnosed. I'm not a big medicine taker, but a therapist said to me, "You're in a rainstorm, and would you send your child into a rainstorm without galoshes and without an umbrella and a raincoat?" And I thought, no, why wouldn't do that? And that was her point is we're in a rainstorm when we get diagnosed with cancer. So if you feel that you need medication to help you cope with the diagnosis, with surgeries, with radiation, with immunotherapy, with survivorship, then seek out a professional and have them monitor you and get the medications that you need to get yourself through whatever it is. People say to me, "Saranne, you're so resilient. How did you do that without medication?" Well, I think I have the best secret weapon, and that's comedy. Comedy has gotten me through so many things. You could do comedy and also take medication. You can study comic perspective and still take medication. I'm not saying it's one or the other. I'm just saying I learned so many incredible techniques. Those techniques have gotten me through so much crazy stress and trauma. And what I learned is that just practicing these techniques before something bad happens gives me so much resiliency when something does happen. Does that make sense? So I don't just start breathing when I feel stressed. I do breathing exercises, meditation, journaling, exercise, creative outlets before things are horrible. So that when things are horrible, I have all of these practices that I'm so comfortable with that help me through crisis. Beating Cancer Daily is all about these strategies. So if you're new to this, just go back to episode 1, your 2020 Cancer Free Vision, and start learning the different techniques and strategies so that you can build up your resiliency. But what I want to share with you is that I learned so much from comedians. I know you're going to say, "Oh my gosh, I've heard comedians have so much anxiety. How could you learn from them?" Exactly. If you search comedy and anxiety on Google, you will get so many videos. Why? Because a lot of comedians have a lot of anxiety. Maria Bamford talks about being in a psych ward. Joe DeRosa talks about his anxiety. It's crippling, he says. When he wakes up in the morning, it is like a tidal wave. Taylor Tomlinson, Adam Ferrara has a bit on anxiety and depression. There are so many. But why do I say I learned so much from comedians? Because they are brave enough to get up on stage. They could be heckled. They could be rejected. No one could laugh. They could forget their material. they still get up and do it. And public speaking is one of the things that people find so frightening, and they get up and they do it. What else? They talk about their most vulnerable moments. They show us behind the veil. They show us behind the curtain their deepest fears, their deepest anxiety, their biggest items of depression, their fears. And they let us see how they cope with it. What is their solution? How do they see it from a 360 comedic view? Mama mia, this is amazing. Because then we can start to look at our own issues, our anxiety, our depression, our fears through their eyes. And then we don't seem so crazy, right? It's amazing. And that gives us the freedom to look at our own issues with that brutal honesty. You may want to do that with a therapist. You may not want to do that alone. You might want to do it with a friend or a family member. But the bottom line is they show us a blueprint for coping using their comic perspective. I go into this on so many episodes on Beating Cancer Daily. So you've got to go back and you've got to look at the comic perspective episodes, the interviews that I do with different comedians like Missy Hall or Karen Bergeron. Every one of these episodes is teaching how to look at our own problems and dissect them with a comic perspective. It's so fun. Honestly, it's so fun. And then what I can report is that because I listen to comedy every day and I really think about the perspective of the comedian, I am so fast now. When things hit me out of left field, my brain automatically looks at it with a comic perspective. And I make myself laugh. I actually laugh when something terrible happens because I've trained myself to have that as an immediate coping strategy. Yes, and then I have to deal with the reality of it. That's an episode that I do called Cancer Symphony Overwhelm, where I just show you a really quirky way to look at your problems. So I really hope that you start listening to more comedy. I really hope that you make a list of the things that are bothering you. And then through all the lessons you learn here, we start to dissect them with a comic perspective. It does build resiliency. It does build strength. So I'd love for you to listen to some of the routines on anxiety. And if it doesn't make you too anxious, I'd love for you to contact me at the Comedy Cures Foundation, either through the record button or through the contact menu, and write to me and let me know if by listening to some brilliant minds dissect their anxiety, if that brings light and air into the problems that are troubling you. And if you can identify with their perspective and let me know if it's been helpful. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow.